Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey, and this is episode 58 of our Pinch Hit Friday series. We're welcoming our newest CSP Florida staff member, hitting coach Ronnie Bernick, to do a guest podcast here. He's a Pittsburgh native and played Division I baseball at Canisius University before spending 2 years coaching in the college ranks. And then for the past decade, he's owned and operated his own baseball training facility, developing hitters at every level of the game. Ronnie serves as an area code Yankees staff and has been a longtime coach for area code baseball. Really bright guy. We've been excited to add to the roster. And today's going to talk about things that you need to know about developing youth hitters, everything from important competencies to common mistakes that they see in that realm. This is a really good entry-level podcast that I think will give everybody a little bit of a glimpse into some of the great info that Ronnie's going to share, and he'll be involved on the podcast moving forward with some great content for our hitters and their parents and their coaches. So enjoy. This episode is brought to you by First Form, an awesome supplement company with a comprehensive product offering that I enjoy using myself and with our athletes. Beyond the broad product line they offer, I also love First Form's commitment to ensuring that their products are the highest quality. They meet NSF certified for sports standards for both consistency and purity. Their Formula One protein powder is the best tasting option I've had in over 20 years in the fitness industry, and they've got several great flavors to choose from. I also lean on their creatine monohydrate to support hard training, their collagen for joint health, their magnesium to help with sleep quality, and their fish oil for a variety of health benefits. Our daughters and I also share a love for their high-protein meat sticks, which have become a big hit in the Cressey household for school lunches and on-the-go protein options as we head to gymnastics and softball practices. Of course, First Form products also have been really popular with our athletes at Cressey Sports Performance, and they're used by some of the top-performing athletes and most recognizable sports franchises in the world. Above all, the people at First Form are top-notch, and that's a rarity in an often unethical business. First Form is dedicated to empowering people on their fitness journeys, and that dedication is matched by only their unwavering commitment to exceptional quality and unparalleled customer service. Check them out for yourself at www.firstform.com/Cressey. That's 1stform.com/CRESSEY and get free shipping on your order of $75 or more. Additionally, they're offering amazing 10% more than your money back guarantee if you're not fully satisfied with your purchase. Again, that's firstform.com/Cressey to get free shipping on your order of $75 or more.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Ronnie Bernick, and thanks for listening in. So today I'm going to discuss some general foundations to youth hitting development, maybe some misconceptions, and some ways that we can create more of a long-term athletic development model that makes sense for what you guys are trying to get out of training and development overall. So I think a basis to start at would be a lot of people are using the one-on-one private training model to develop mechanics, any type of technique, versus trying to create some type of feel or an understanding of their body for a lot of the youth athletes. I think from what I've seen, there's a lot of players that are looking for an answer to the question with a lot of hitting development. And as we get into the cage setting and start to develop athletes between the ages of, let's say, 8 to 14, a lot of times we as coaches try to get them into positions that they may just not be able to get into yet, whether that's a lack of stability in a certain area, maybe a lack of strength in a certain area. So really being able to get the hitter to feel and figure out what makes them move the best with where they're currently at in their development, I think it's something that should be challenged on a day-to-day basis when they're hitting. I think the strength and stability side of it is obviously going to adjust as they get into the weight room. They start to understand their body a little bit more. Their body starts to grow. They're starting to move, between different sports a little bit more so they can kind of understand where they're at. But realistically, when we're actually developing a lot of these players at younger ages, it just makes a lot of sense to get them to challenge the process that they're trying to accomplish within the cage, and then be able to have a conversation with them about potentially what they could be struggling with in games and how to get that same feel and apply that, into a cage setting. A lot of times what I've seen is that the mechanics that they are learning in a cage setting don't necessarily apply to the game. And I think that's where there's a lot of a disconnect at times with development, is just being able to understand that what we're doing in the cage should be able to create the feel that they want once they get outside so they can actually go out there and compete. And realistically, that's something that should be developed at the youngest possible level and all the way up through, obviously, the major league level, because there's a lot of times where we just have to default back to what we're good at or what we feel at the current moment. And hitters are their best coaches. So if we can get them to understand the feels that they have, they can be our lens to understand what's going on into a game. A lot of times, rather than looking at a video or just trying to see the result of what the game or bulk of the games look like. So the conversations that we try to have in the cage setting is being able to just understand what they're trying to accomplish, how they're going to compete. The next piece to that is I feel like there's one really big place in hitting development that is forgotten, and that's the vision aspect of it. I think there's a lot of focus and development on let's get the body more athletic, let's get everybody bigger, stronger, which is a huge aspect to how they're gonna be good players. But are we really focusing on how they're seeing pitches? Are they seeing pitches well? Are they seeing them late? Are they losing their timing because they can't pick up the baseball? So I think a lot of development really stems from what type of processes are we trying to create so that they can compete in a game setting, regardless of whether the swing's in a really good place right now or a really bad place. So a couple of the staples that I try to use, like when working with youth athletes, is how am I going to challenge the process? So if they're obviously trying to, let's say, hit a line drive up the middle, how can I challenge that? Can I do something that's going to necessarily allow them to be off time and get them out of that? Am I going to change the way that I'm releasing the ball so that they might not necessarily be able to see the pitch as well, and then use that as a basis for conversation. So a couple ways that I try to look at hitting, I guess, as a starting point is I want to see if they're just seeing the ball well. So a lot of times we'll just say, how'd you see that? Where do you think that pitch was on the plate whenever you took that or you swung at it? Just to see if my lens and their lens is similar. The second thing would be, are they on time? Even if it's a 9-year-old kid that's, hitting pitching for the first time, are they understanding how to get on time? The answer is probably no. So if we're not really looking at the vision and the timing part of it, then we're gonna try to make an adjustment with the actual swing piece itself, rather than looking at the actual root of the problem. So vision and timing become extremely valuable at the early ages of baseball, because if we can get them to understand those things, then it makes the adjustments to the swing that much easier. Obviously, the swing matters, but what type of athlete are we working with here? Do they play multiple sports? Is it somebody that's just focused on one sport? And then try to figure out if they see the ball really well and they're on time, what could potentially be limiting them from performing at their best physically? Is it a body specific thing, or is it a swing specific thing? So I think a lot of times I'll look at the technique side of the swing honestly last, just because there's so many other factors that go into being a good hitter. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the younger athletes, understanding their capacity as a learner at the time, but really I think that if we can push ideally being able to see the ball better and understanding time and space, those types of things are going to actually help a lot of those youth development kids a lot better as they get older, because as the body physically changes, those two foundations will already be there. Those are dynamic and they're always changing, but when you're looking at, youth athletes as a whole, that's where I see that, we may be lacking a little bit is understanding, feels where our body's at. How do we understand time and space, and are we seeing the thing that we're trying to hit? So that's a couple nuggets from the youth athletic development side of it. But to recap the whole thing overall, it's let's try to see if they can feel their body a little bit. Let's try to see if we can see the ball. Let's get on time, and then let's allow the body to kind of catch up with those things as we get a little bit older, because as we get into our teen years and beyond that, we're constantly working on making the body the better mover. And as those things happen, typically the swing stuff will clean itself up.